Another episode of the Autumn Windbags. RJ Clifford, Juan Soto. Let's have some fun today. The Raiders with 2-win streak momentum.
My goodness.
Roaring into Chicago. Loaded down with deep dish pizza. The softest part of the schedule. One of the worst teams in football. Favored on the road against the storied franchise that will be without their 2 starting running backs and their starting quarterback. They stood up against Tyson Bagent, Division II football player, undrafted rookie. And the Raiders managed to put up only 6 points before garbage time and fall to the Bears 30-12. The Bears were giving up 29.3 points per game coming into today. And Josh McDaniels' offense is able to put up 12-6 outside of garbage time.
It was what I think we all had feared because of, early game travel, Brian Hoyer. It shouldn't have happened, but it did.
So the biggest story coming into today was that there was 2 big stories, right? Davante Adams was the national story of the Raiders all week, his venting his frustrations without getting targets. So his targets were going to be something we follow. But the big national story going in is the starting of Tyson Bagent. Shepherd's University. Didn't know where that was. Didn't know that was a school. I did know that his last game was losing to the Colorado School of Mines, and that was always kind of a running joke. They were in our division in wrestling. When I wrestled Division II at San Francisco State, the Colorado School of Mines was in my division. So I was like the one guy in Raider Nation that knew there's a school called Colorado School of Mines, and he couldn't beat them, but he could beat the Bears. It's funny. He had a very Josh McDaniels type game, just efficient, 12 of 29, 162 yards, moved around in the pocket, let the running game do this thing, and protected the football. No turnovers, only took 1 sack, and even threw a touchdown.
Yeah, it's. I mean, one can argue what the bigger story is for the Bears. Is it the quarterback play, or is it a third string running back play? The running game of the Bears.
3 touchdowns for Dante Foreman, 2 rushing, 1 receiving.
I mean, either way, man. I don't think that is it Bagent? I think they're calling him Bagent.
Bagent. I tweeted it. Remember the Family Guy line when the doctor's like, Peter, I don't know how to say this. Basinger? Basinger? Kim Basinger? Like Bagent?
Bagent.
Bagent?
I don't know that Bagent has the game he does without the running game that they had.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
well, I mean, he threw the ball 29 times, which is not a ton, but, decent amount. Only 162 yards, but he just, he did the little. That's exactly what you want in this situation. Let the run game carry it. The offensive ineptitude of the Raiders. You don't have to do anything crazy. Protect the football.
Short third downs, keep it manageable. Timing throws, nothing for him really to read. He's got, he did go through progressions a few times, but just quick reads. They executed with a undrafted rookie pretty much the same game plan that we had with a 15-year veteran, which is just goes to show you. It just was was I optimistic that we would go out there and look a little bit better? Yeah. Was this always in the back of my mind? Of course it was. Of course it was. It was always in the back of my mind that we would go out there and do this because, again, I don't know. I mean, I do know that, Josh McDaniels hasn't shown enough to have me have a lot of confidence that he's going to be able to put a sophisticated game plan together for the personnel that he has. I just think he has a game plan that he wants to play.
He wants robots, right? And that's why he started Brian Hoyer, which is so ridiculous. I did not understand it whatsoever. The only way I understood it is, what's the least creative thing that's possible? And that's what Josh McDaniels is going to do in starting Brian Hoyer. Hoyer was awful. I tweeted hey, what are the odds that Brian Hoyer would lose 13 games in a row? You'd think after 12 he'd be due for one. It's like, come on, man. He is a loser. He loses football games. That's what he does. So there was 4 really stupid Josh McDaniels moments for me today.
Let's hear it.
First off was starting Brian Hoyer. That was dumb. Should have been Aiden O'Connell. 2, you're down 21-3 in the. This is like a mixture of ones. You're down 21-3 in the fourth quarter. Josh McDaniels kicks a field goal. Daniel Carlson's groin is injured, so you're doing that to begin with. 2, you're still down 2 touchdowns. And what made it even dumber, remember it was 4th and 4, and they're on the 8, and they go for it. And then they make it to the 4, and it's 4th and goal, and then he kicks it. So you really needed those extra 4 yards? And all you did was burn 2 minutes of play clock. Like, you won't kick it from the 8, but you'll burn 2 minutes of play time and kick it from the 4. Chestnut checkers, right? So that was 1 plus. That was just absolute bonehead move. 2, you're bringing in Farva with 5 minutes left. Like,
pointless.
Are you trying to protect your franchise? Brian Hoyer
to get his head blown off? Like it makes no sense. Like if you were gonna move on from Hoyer to Farva, Hoyer showed you enough at halftime that he was not going to be able to move the ball, right? So why not put in Farva when you can actually run a game plan, right? Mm-hmm. You can actually protect him a little bit with a running game with safer throws and stuff like that. Don't put him in a game when the defense knows you're throwing and it's going to pin their ears back and try to take Farva's head off. You're not going to develop that way as a quarterback because you're not going to be in those games from the beginning where you're just everyone's spread out throwing the ball every single play. So you're not going to run the offense. You're not going to get better running this offense going into that kind of scramble mode towards the end.
The reason you bring in another quarterback in garbage time is to protect the other quarterback. That's the whole point. That's the whole reason in garbage. Who is more valuable long-term? The rookie Aiden O'Connell that we're still figuring out and developing, or Brian Hoyer, who's not even a top 40 quarterback in this league that Josh McDaniels had to beg to come back. If Josh McDaniels wasn't the coach of the Raiders, Brian Hoyer would be watching at home. Like, what? If there's anybody that's expendable on the Raiders roster, it's Brian Hoyer. He's the most expendable guy, but you pull him to protect him to have.
It just doesn't make any sense, man. It really doesn't. It's hard with these decisions. It's really hard. It's really hard, and we're going to find out a lot about what we have to cheer for in the next 5 years, 10 years, on what happens this next season and into the off season. If this is just something where Mark Davis is just going to sit back and say, okay, well, you know what, despite all these things that you outlined, despite the things that I've talked about, despite all these maneuvers, all the way that the team didn't show up, the bonehead decisions that we're seeing over and over again, the lack of development, the lack of any awareness or any type of adjustment offensively, the lack of accountability in the press conferences, all that stuff put together. If Mark Davis is like, well, I'm going to stay patient and move forward with him for another year, he's the same mentality as Josh McDaniels, right? Mm-hmm. The only reason I have to see to continue to play Hoyer after halftime is to feed Josh McDaniels' own ego so he doesn't get second-guessed. Well, and if Farva, God forbid, if Farva does well coming in at halftime, oh, you should have started him. Why didn't you start him in the beginning? You know, all this other stuff. So if that happens, if we don't see any movement from the end of this season into the off season, it's going to be a rough time moving forward because it's just a bunch of people that are looking after how they're coming across and not taking an honest look at themselves in the situation, which is what we've seen a lot.
Sam A, thank you so much for the super chat. Best case scenario, tank, fire McDaniels, trade everyone. So NFL teams don't tank. They just really, really don't. This isn't the NBA. Like, it's not like a thing. And the dangerous thing about tanking is you're creating this like culture of losing. Because all the players on that team are still playing for contracts, for their jobs, to stay on rosters, to, you're not going to have guys take dives. Like, they need to still look good out there. And also, this isn't, we've talked about it a bunch of times, this isn't really that tankable of a roster. Like, the only guys that are like older and making a lot of money are guys we can't get rid of. Like Davante Adams, you can't trade him. There's like $50 million in dead cap. We can't move on from him. Can't do it. Jimmy G, we have him for 2 years, $33 million guaranteed. Really can't move on from him. A trade or release would be really tough. Everyone else is young. You're not going to move on from Maxx Crosby. You want to build around that. You're not going to move on from Colton Miller. You want to build around that. Like, these are all like younger guys in their early 20s that you want to build around. So that's the problem with this roster. It's like there's not a lot of like guys to move on from. Jacoby Myers, maybe. I don't remember exactly his contract. I remember not going to lose a ton, but
yeah, and there's a very negative byproduct of a coach coaching with his ego. Mm-hmm. Is you're building a culture within the players, maybe not the top guys like the Maxx Crosbys and those types of guys, but you're building a culture of he doesn't care, so why should I? Mm-hmm. I don't know why Marcus Peters is still on the field. He did like 4 olays where he just wasn't even trying to tackle.
That first one that they slow mode and Mark Sanchez was just like, oh God, like in the film room tomorrow, that should be an immediate flick to the nuts. Like,
yeah,
that's a flick to the nuts film room.
So you get that. You get a lot of the guys in the secondary just didn't want to tackle. Marcus Epps lowers a shoulder and Foreman gets another 6 yards after contact. Like it happened a lot in the game where guys were just standing around while offensive players for the Bears were still struggling to get more yards, and they're just standing around looking at them. You know,
yeah. That was probably the biggest error of this team was the tackling of all. It's like add 4 yards to every single play for the Bears because the first two Raiders defenders always missed. That was basically every single one.
It's definitely when you see a coach coaching that way and you get players playing that way, that puts bad tape on there. So it's possible to really get rid of good, decent players that you can build with moving forward with, even if a new regime comes in, because of that feeling that you're giving the players. And we've seen that happen with us where we've let some guys go and then they go somewhere else and play better because, you know, maybe the environment's a little bit better. It just makes it harder for us to make or even the new regime coming in to make a solid decision because of, you know, pretty much what the coach's decisions are telling the team. It's my ego and my decisions are over what you guys want to do.
Edgar Bonilla, thank you so much for the super chat. Much appreciated. We lost to a bacon bagel. That sounds delicious. Bacon bagel. How can we not fire McDaniels? I mean, we certainly can, but like, here's the context. Where would you rank this as far as Josh McDaniels' worst losses? I say it's third behind losing to the Rams when Baker had 2 days notice last season and losing to Jeff Saturday last season. I think those were worse considering who we were facing. And I say this is number 3. And only 24 games as Raiders head coach.
I put this one second behind. I think actually the Colts loss is worse.
Okay.
The Colts loss is worse.
And then Rams third.
It's pretty close. This is pretty close to the worst one. Because the Colts loss, Jeff Saturday wasn't out there calling plays, right? He had the offensive coordinator who was the quarterback coach who was there the entire season, the defensive coordinator who was there the entire season. Jonathan Taylor comes back for that game. Matt Ryan comes back for that game. So it's like you have the guys that you wanted to start your season with all come back for that game.
Yeah.
So I don't see that. I mean, I just say that it wasn't a bad loss. Of course, it was a terrible loss.
It's in the top 3, which is pretty crazy considering Josh McDaniels only has 24 games as Raiders head coach. And this is maybe, arguably only the third worst loss. Like 12.5% of his games were this bad of a loss or equivalent.
Yeah, it's bad. This is
12.5% of his games were this level bad losses.
So not only are you looking at the fact that they lost, you're looking at the decision making, the judgment. Starting Hoyer over O'Connell. Fine. You think that playing a more mistake-free game against a Bears team starting an undrafted rookie is the safer way to go. Okay, I don't necessarily have to, and I don't agree with that. I'd say we should have started Farva, but I could understand the logic you're going with. I get it. But when that mistake-free football also gives you 0 touchdowns, you have to.
And is it mistake-free? Like,
yeah,
he's lost 12 in a row and he's thrown more picks than touchdowns. Like, this isn't like the safe choice. You're just picking a bad quarterback that you know what he's bad at. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, look, we can argue on that interception, right? I think it was a bad play on both guys, but ultimately the quarterback threw the ball, so it's going to fall on him, right?
Yeah.
So you have that, plus you have no touchdowns, no juice to the offense. You're putting your defense in a bad spot because you're constantly putting your defense back on the field with bad offense. Mm-hmm. If you're turning the ball over anyway, and you're not getting any juice, why not go to somebody who's shown that the offense looks a little bit different when he's on the field? He just didn't want to do it, man. I don't understand it. The only way I can kind of like follow back and follow some logic is he just didn't want to get second guessed. If Farva came back in and came in and did a better job, doesn't make a lot of sense. And honestly, like this. If anything is a bigger boner killer to Mark Davis, it's going to the Bears on a high from the Aces winning, just, waving to the crowd, walking on the field, waving at all the Raider fans, and to put up this type of stinker. It was really, really, really bad. This is one of the worst games that Josh McDaniels has coached, not just because that they lost, but who they lost to and the personnel that they lost to. This is... So at least Baker Mayfield was a starter in the league before. At least you have some players on the team. They had DJ Moore and pretty much nothing else. If everyone's healthy, Foreman doesn't get on the field. Foreman's a special teams guy. So it's a pretty bad loss. This is
Foreman's going to be a top
worst losses we've seen.
He's going to be a top 3 to 5 fantasy football skill player this week. The third string backup against.
Yeah, probably in the top 5% for sure.
Yeah, way up there. Shima86, thank you for the super chat. Mark seriously needs to smarten up and flame McDaniels. So Vic Tafer is real big on this from The Athletic, and I'm kind of with him. So tomorrow is the Las Vegas Aces championship parade, who Mark Davis also owns. Like, that's going to be probably what saves Mark Davis more than anything. Like, how bad this loss is, how pissed off Mark Davis should and better be. He's like, what am I going to, which fancy white suit am I going to wear to the parade tomorrow? He's like working on his dance moves, that he had when they won. What was this one? This one that he was doing? He's like working on his dance moves and crap. Almost did it.
I get that, but look at it from this perspective. How many people are actually going to be there for that parade? Honestly. That aren't paid to be there. Let's just be honest. I understand what the NBA does, and they want it to blow it up, and they're going to ship a lot of like, schools and stuff like that. They're going to create a thing where the school bust your kids in and this and that and blah, blah, blah.
What if Vegas goes nuts for them, right?
We can be adults. We could be adults. No one, it's going to, if they get 20,000 people at that parade, I would be shocked. Actual people that wanted to go, not bust in or paid people to go. Okay.
What if Vegas just goes nuts? They start tipping over cop cars, lighting them on fire. The strip's going crazy. All for a WNBA team. Like when the Lakers win a championship.
What if I pull out my time machine and go back before the game and start Favre instead of? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So if you're Mark Davis, and this is supposed to be one of the crowning moments of owning a franchise, and you look out and you see that few people, and you look at, okay, I won 2 championships in the WNBA, whoop-de-doo, but my crowning achievement of owning the Raiders and building the stadium that my father was trying to build for 40-something years, right?
Yeah.
Can't keep from stepping on their nuts. So I don't understand. I don't get how he's supposed to be pumped up, and this is going to kind of like squash any type of urgency for him to make a move with the Raiders. I think that it's really overblown that the Aces winning is going to take any type of heat away from anyone in the Raiders organization.
Sam A., thank you again for the super chat. I'm afraid McDaniels will be with us forever. I can tell you that's not going to happen.
You know what I'm going to call McDaniels from now on because of that? I'm gonna call him Herpes because he sucks and he's gonna be with us forever.
And he's not everywhere. He's only in certain places. He's
Coach
not in the
Herpes.
defensive room. He's not in the O-line room. He's just with quarterbacks and receivers.
Coach Herpes.
He's not Herpes if he's everywhere. He's
That's
only a few
what
places.
Yeah.
Sam A, again, thank you for the super chat. I called it. Check the first comment earlier.
You did.
Roger
Yeah,
checking.
You did. I saw that.
I know. I want to show it. I want to play it. A lot of comments. We'll get to all of them, I promise. Sam A, 10:22 a.m. I think we're going to lose big. You didn't call it. We lost huge, amazingly, massively big. You just said lose regular big. So you didn't call it, Sam. I'm sorry. We didn't just lose big. We lost Sasquatch size big. Michael Creamer, thank you very much for the super chat. Up to $5 now. Where is last year's Soto? He seems content because Soto was stuck having to defend McDaniels, Jimmy G, and Hoyer that the rest of us knew were garbage. Soto, what's your response?
My response is to grow up, man. Does optimism equal confidence? No. Just because I'm looking at reasons to think that we can maybe turn it around doesn't mean I'm confident that it's going to happen. If it's just RJ and I taking the same viewpoint the entire time, it's going to be a pretty boring show. So that's something that we have to. I mean, there's something that we have to really focus on here. Just because I wasn't in the crowd with the pitchfork and the torch, saying from the very first day he was hired that we should fire McDaniels before he even makes a decision or before he even coaches a game, it doesn't mean that I was 100% on board with this guy. From the beginning, I was like, let's show some patience. The information that we have is over 10 years old. Let him give us some new information. When I was confident that I had the information that I could give to turn and say, that's it, I'm done, we have to move on, that's when I did. But people don't want to hear that. If I don't agree with you, it means I'm against you. It's ridiculous.
Well, my issue was you called people who said McDaniels was going to fail haters before you did, and you're like,
I don't like people that
now you're allowed to. Well, that was my thing. Is like, well, you decided when you were allowed to say McDaniels is going to be bad for us, and my thing is like, well, people said it a long time ago, and there was enough evidence to say like, okay, you can make an argument that he's a bad coach and we don't want him. You call those people haters. That was my only issue.
I understand that, but again, you're making a decision off of information that's over a decade old.
And they made the right decision.
I understand that, RJ, but I think I'm more looking at the process of making the decision, not just like making the decision itself, because that makes me question this person and their judgment in any number of decisions, if that's how they make a decision. So there
was a lot of evidence out there.
That's more.
Josh McDaniels.
The evidence was over a decade old, RJ. You have to understand. You have to understand that from that perspective. You don't have to agree, but you have to at least understand that perspective, right?
Can you acknowledge that people aren't haters?
Before we move forward, can you at least acknowledge that perspective, that the information was over a decade old?
More information is always better,
and more current information is always better.
But come on, like there's been a lot of coaching hirings of like when Art Shell got hired by the Raiders, right? Like we're like, dude, this is not going to work. You know what I mean? Like we all kind of knew it. It was like, well, the information's really old. But it was so bad and guys don't change that much, right? So like, sure, like more information's always better. Like if you weren't sure before, I'm pretty sure you know now, right? There's not a lot of McDaniels defenders out there at this point. I am defending people who said, I think he's going to be bad. I think you calling them haters was incorrect. I think
I don't like people that make what I see as a snap judgment. I don't like that. It's something that really pisses me off.
And maybe some of them were snap judgers, but I think a lot of them were, look, he was bad in the Broncos. He doesn't know how to run a locker room. He rubs people the wrong way. I think he's a bad coach.
I'm never going to agree with you and think that they're not haters. Okay, so I mean, if you want to keep bringing it up, that's fine. All I'm saying,
I didn't bring it up.
You did bring it up.
Michael Creamer brought it up.
No, you did bring it up today. You did bring it up. You brought up the whole hater thing, which is fine. You want to bring it up? That's cool. You want to pile on Michael Creamer? That's fine. What I'm saying is this:
you call me a hater for calling something right.
I didn't bring anything up. I didn't bring anything up today. Again, my judgment on your decision making isn't about the answer. It's more so how you got to the answer. because anyone can say, yeah, the lotto number, one of them is going to be the number 5. Well, how did you come up with that? I don't know. I just
what this is the 24th game of Josh McDaniels Raiders tenure. At what game were you allowed to say he's a bad coach? Like, what was the threshold where before you're a hater and now you're making a smart decision?
It's difficult because last year we had really bad quarterback play, kind of like what we're having this year. So I'm okay. We saw one quarterback, and then when we put the backup quarterback in, the offense looked a lot better. So I'm like, okay, is it the quarterback that was the problem? Is it because a backup quarterback comes in and scores a ton of points the last couple? Okay,
you said it was definitely the quarterback that was the problem last season.
Well, he was a problem.
There was no maybe. You said it. It is a Derek Carr problem. You didn't put it on Josh McDaniels.
Okay, I misspoke. Was it just the quarterback or quarterback and the coach? Okay. Because Stidham goes in and plays much better in the same offense with the same tools. Get it? Okay. Well, let's see him with a new quarterback, and let's see if it's something looks this. And it looks pretty much the same. A lot of things being missed, bad reads. Now, is Derek Carr? Is he flashier? Does he have more arm talent? Can he make more throws than Garoppolo? Yeah, which is what the difference that we're seeing in the offense. Still, 2 quarterbacks that played poorly, but now you have more information with 2 different quarterbacks. Now, I wouldn't say necessarily the games themselves, but you have the people that he's choosing running the offenses. It's not good.
So with that said, where is the Mendoza line? Like, at what point are you a hater for saying Josh McDaniels is going to not be a good coach? And at what point is it a smart decision? At what game?
I don't. It's not necessarily a game itself. More than zero games.
You understand, like, my frustration, right? Where it's like at some point you decided you were a hater for saying Josh McDaniels isn't going to be a good coach, and at some point you're saying I know Josh McDaniels isn't a good coach. Well, and then you just decided where that line was somewhere. I don't know when it was. I don't know if you did where it was.
You also decided that people should get credit and be like thumbs up with 0 games played, which is my frustration.
He's been a head coach before.
Again, RJ, you're not acknowledging this point, and again, you don't have to agree, but you're using information that's over 10 years old. And if you want to make it about this, I can.
And it was clearly good information
for the rest of 30 minutes. If you want to make it about this, you want to make it about the game, we can talk about that. If you want to pick on me and make it about me, we can do that too. It's up to you. I'd like to talk about the game, but you can talk about me and keep.
Oh, now you want to talk about the game? Now that you don't know when the turning point was?
You're the one that's bringing this up. You're the one that's saying, you're bringing all this stuff and keeping this comment up for the last 5 minutes. It's up to you.
Shima 86.
Now that you want to move on, we can move on. Perfect. Let's do it. Whatever you say.
Yeah, it's like when you decided when you're no longer a hater for Josh McDaniels, I'm deciding now we can move on.
Okay, let's talk about that then. Because what we're talking about now is you trying to make things about me, which is the last time I got really upset. That's what you were trying to do. You were trying to make it about me. Excuse me, sir.
Creamer made it about you.
You wanted to make it about me instead of about the game. And you're continuing to try to make it about me. I want to make it about the game. So if you want to make it about the game, I am 100% ready to do that.
When am I allowed to make it about you, and when am I allowed to make it about the game?
Okay, well, we talked about what the comment was, and you continue to, go after the comment over and over and over. Okay. And we don't agree on it, RJ. We don't have to re-step these bounds over and over again, but you're continuing to step on them after I respond. You asked me to respond to a comment, I did, and then you kept going. So
and then I asked you when is the line from when you've gone from hater to good analysis?
The issue why I gave him a season last year is because of the quarterback play. Was the quarterback the issue? Was he not running the offense right? Or was it a Josh McDaniels thing? Or was it both? Now we're seeing that it's both, because the quarterback that we got rid of last year isn't playing well this year either. So, okay, now we have a lot more information. All right. So if we can move on, we can move on.
So if you want to fire McDaniels, you're not a hater anymore. Correct? Shima 86.
RJ, we're not doing this, man. You see, this is the issue that I have. I'm ready to move on. You can move on if you want, but you have to get your extra little dig in there. There's no need for that, RJ.
There is, because you called me a hater.
Oh, God, RJ, get over yourself.
For all this time.
God forbid someone calls you a hater. Oh my God!
Yeah. And then when you're proven wrong, you try to wriggle out of it.
And we don't agree, and
just
it's fine.
Take the L. So we can move on.
It's no L. We took the L. The team took the L. That's the L that we need to be focusing on. But you want to hammer this over and 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 not stop and not talk about the game and make this poor content. I don't like this content for my show. Do you not understand that? I don't like making
calling
it like
you out
this.
on your BS.
I don't like making it about this, RJ. I answered the question, RJ. I answered the comment, and you won't let it go. Can you let it go, please, so we can make better content? Please.
At what point? I just want to know. At what point was that line?
RJ, can you stop, please? Can we talk about the show and not talk about
the show is about
stuff?
Moving on from McDaniels.
Can we talk about making better content? Can we just make better content, please? And
moving on from McDaniels conversation? I think moving on from McDaniels conversation is like the main Raiders topic this week. Would you agree?
Oh my God, dude.
Would you not agree? Is that not probably the biggest thing we're going to talk about
right now? If it's not about the game that we're supposed to be covering in a post-game show.
So we're not allowed to talk about firing McDaniels, yes or no?
You can talk about whatever you want, RJ. I'm just not going to follow along. So just
can we talk about what Shima86 wants to talk about?
If you want, man.
Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. Josh Jacobs, was shaking his head all game long. McDaniels about to lose locker room. I'm still not sold on this improved defense. Patrick Graham got exposed. Well, first off, the defense is definitely improved from last season. I don't think me or Soto ever said they were like good or groundbreaking. I think I said, was it last 2 shows ago or last show? They were approaching average in one defensive category, yards allowed per game. You're like, okay, that's improvement because it was atrocious last year. So I don't think you ever said that, Soto, like this defense is good. It was just, it has been improving in elements. And I would disagree that Patrick Graham got exposed. I mean, Patrick Graham has been outcoached. Guys were generally in pretty good position defensively. They just missed tackles. The fundamentals was trash. Like I said before, I think I tweeted like, whatever play the Bears have, add 4 yards. Because the first 2 Raiders defenders aren't going to hit him.
I don't put the defense on Patrick Graham today. I think the defenders were in position to make plays. I think a lot of guys made business decisions. I just don't understand how you can, especially even early in the game. I think it was after the first couple of rushes where, Foreman was running over guys, that guys were just like, well, I'm gonna ankle tackle this guy. I'm gonna drag him to the ground. I'm not gonna hit anybody. And it was mostly in the secondary. Diablo got hurt, but before he did, he did the same thing. A lot of guys waiting for offensive players to come to them instead of us going to grab the offensive player. And I don't put this on Graham's coaching. It's just the guys are just playing soft.
The second Marcus Peters whiffed and Olayed, he should have been pulled right away and sent a message like, guys, that's not the defense we're playing today. We're not. The problem is we don't have anyone much better to replace him, but there should have been a message sent that second when Marcus Peters just Olayed, letting a first down go. You're like, no, guys, we're not doing that. You're going to play that way. I'd rather have bad players who are playing with heart be out here than Olaying these dudes. Michael Creamer, thank you for just $5 for nothing. We'll take the tip. Much appreciated. Turn that into a beer tomorrow or a shot of terrible whiskey tonight, which is what we deserve. Do you have an angry booze that you drink? Like if you just got broken up with or the Raiders get their dick stomped in?
I don't really drink that much, man. I don't really drink that much.
You know what I drink? Early Times whiskey.
Rubby alcohol.
Early Times whiskey. It is terrible. And it just tastes like depression. And that's kind of what I'm feeling right now. I want to listen to a really sad country song and drink liquid depression that's in a bottle of 80 proof. I'll let you take this one, Soto. We got to read it for the pod. Last year, Soto at game 15, I am complaining because the Raiders were not beating the teams they should beat. Scoreboard 30, Bears 30, Raiders 6.
Okay, so I'm complaining again today that we're not beating teams that we should beat. We had people complaining when we were beating teams, but not pretty like they wanted them to. So,
well, I think the not pretty was a sign of things to come, right? It's like, okay, we got the win. Great. They're hard to come by, but I think it was Nick Wright. I don't know if it's like a popular phrase or like a famous phrase or slogan, but Nick Wright had a great line that I heard on the radio the other day. He's like, never concede in victory what you would fix in a defeat. I thought that was a great line. Like if
for sure.
If you throw 4 interceptions in a game and you still win, can be like, well, it worked. It's like, no, we got to work on protecting the ball, right? Same thing back then. We were beating really bad teams while still playing bad. It's like, all right, let's work on these things that aren't working, or it's going to come back and bite us in the what. And today was a dragon-sized bite.
Well, yeah, when you get 2 teams out there that, are, especially with the players that were out there right now, pretty equal talent-wise, when you get a team that's going to go out there and give a lot more and consistent effort, that's the team that's going to win.
Unholy Roller Raider Frankie, that's the longest name in the world. The spider has gone insane. Is that an inside line I don't know about? Anderson the Spider Silva?
Oh, because your shirt.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Spider Muay Thai. Anyone in the Orange County area want to do Muay Thai? Go to our Coach Frankie.
That's the place to go.
Coach Frankie. You'll see a familiar face at the front desk. That beautiful mug standing directly.
When I'm not beating the fighters up with strength and conditioning, yes.
Sam A, thank you again, buddy, for the super chat. Might have to put up a shrine in our new studio that we're building for you, Sam. Just want to help you dudes with the new studio with my super chats when we go and do a game. So I still haven't been to Allegiant Stadium. Still haven't been to a game there. I went to Giants Raiders 2 years ago when I was working at Madison Square Garden. What?
In New York, right?
In New York, yeah, 2 seasons ago.
And you also went to Tennessee, right?
I went to Tennessee last season. And I realized this. I'm like 0-7. I have like a Brian Hoyer level losing streak going to Raider games. I realized this a few months ago, and I think I said it on the show. The last time I went to a Raider game where the Raiders won, it was at Qualcomm Stadium. From the it was a Chargers Raiders at Qualcomm. How long ago was Qualcomm? 5 seasons ago? 6 more?
I mean, Qualcomm was 1 season before Allegiant, because they played in the Coliseum. No, 2 seasons before, because they played in the Coliseum for 2 years.
6 seasons ago.
Well, this is what year is this with this is the 3rd year, right, at Allegiant? So 5 years ago then. Or 6 years, the year before, so 6 years, yeah.
6 years. Half a dozen years since I've been to a Raider game where they won. So I don't know. I might just be the dude that just like clings back. Soto will go with you though, Sam.
I mean, I would rather do like watch-alongs.
We're gonna start doing that once the stadium's built. Like
watch parties, maybe get a select few spots to do.
Maybe if I go to a Raider game, but with the opposing team's jersey, it'll inverse the curse.
Oh, a little espionage.
Yeah, like go under the radar, like I couldn't get myself to buy like a Chiefs, Broncos, or Chargers one, but like, I don't know. Is there like a cool defensive player on like another team that we're playing that I can wear one of those with like a little bit of pride? I'll wear like a UCLA or BYU player's jersey just to like see if I can. I'll try it. Maybe not this season, maybe next season. We'll see if we can break the streak. Michael Creamer, thank you again for the super chat. The only thing RJ said about Soto is that he is one of the best analysts that RJ knows. Yes. I say it all the time. I have the highest and utmost respect for Juan Soto as a broadcaster and analyst, and zero respect for him as a man. That's how we're able to do a good show.
The only thing RJ made about Soto is that he was one of the best.
I think he meant said.
Did he mean analyst?
Analyst?
One of the two.
Soto is definitely at least in my top 20 analysts that I know. He's easily in the top 20 power rankings of analysts. Rick Baker, thank you for the super chat. $5. On the positive side, I heard Tyree Wilson's name 3 times a day, and he got his first sack. How fitting that his first NFL sack was against Nathan Peterman in a play that didn't look like a sack until I rewatched it like 6 times. You know what I mean? It wasn't like
I texted you right away.
It it was like an end of the half. Let's bring in Peterman because he has a bigger arm. Hail Mary. And it like, I don't know. It was just like a weird angle. It was like a weird, like, it wasn't like a Maxx Crosby, just like clean hit, ends the drive, gets to celebrate with his teammates. It was just like this weird, like, I'm helping Nathan Peterman fall out of bounds type of thing. It was so top.
Yeah. I mean, the first time I watched it, it was kind of difficult because the cameraman got fooled on the throw and kind of went for the throw.
Yeah.
But the ball just kind of like popped backwards out of bounds, which is a sack. He got hit and he hit his arm as he was trying to Peterman tried to throw his arm back to throw. And he got hit and pushed out of bounds, which technically is a sack.
The other big story that we were talking about today or coming into the week was targets for Davante Adams. He's expressed some frustration over the last 2 games, only 9 targets in the last 2 games. He only had 4 targets against the Packers. He had 4 targets in the first drive. So clearly part of the game plan was let's get Davante more involved. And it started out pretty busy, but then it kind of fell off after that. In total, Davante Adams, he did lead the league in receiving yards at 57. 7 receptions on 12 targets, along of 15. Here's something more depressing. Davante Adams, Jacoby Myers, and Zamir White each had 15-yard catches, which were the longest plays from scrimmage. The other 2, there was a 41-yard pass interference and a 14-yard pass interference. Literally, the pass interferences was the best offensive production we had consistently today.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, you roll tape back, but didn't I say about 12 targets is about what he was going to get?
Yep.
And
Under
honestly, look, Davante Adams is the man. He is the man. He is the best receiver we've ever had. Physically, tools-wise, just the receiver position.
Jerry Rice.
I mean, at the time, he was okay. It's
I feel like 85% Jerry Rice is still like, I think Jerry Rice is the best football player pound for pound.
He was still damn good. No, I'm not disparaging him at all. I'm not disparaging him whatsoever.
When we're having the debate, was it Jerry Rice or Davante Adams?
There's the debate. Tim Brown, because one can argue that if Tim Brown played for the Niners with all those Hall of Fame quarterbacks, he would have some pretty good stats too, right? So there's that. Okay, there's also those Randy Moss. You know, there's like the 4 or 5 guys you put in there as these are guys are really great. If you're going to complain, if you're going to complain about targets, you don't drop touchdowns.
Yeah, that was such a good route too. He juked the crap out of that corner and was wide open, and then just it was a little overthrown, but it should have been caught. It was just. When you're one of the top 5 highest paid players in the non-quarterback position, you make that catch.
Yeah, I don't want hear him talking about targets today. I want him to address his drop. If you're going to be honest and you're going to call out the team for not giving you targets, you better call yourself out for dropping a ball. I'm sure he will too, because he's that kind of guy.
How much worse would this game have been if they had Justin Fields? Or if the Bears didn't commit 110 yards in penalties? They had 9 penalties for 110 yards.
Honestly, I think this team, I've watched the Bears play, and I think that the offense ran a lot smoother the way they ran it today. Even though Justin Fields is more athletic and maybe more of a dynamic player, that would also change the game plan and change how you wanted to play offense. But they should play offense this way. They're built really to play offense like this.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Could it have been a lot worse? Sure, it could have been. But I mean, they did score 30 points, 30 whatever points on us.
30 points.
Yeah.
30 big ones. 23 of them on offense. Right, with the pick 6. Another storyline that's been following with the trade deadline just 9 days away. It's like literally 9 days. Minus 51 minutes. Almost exactly 9 days from now is the trade deadline. And Hunter Renfrow has been the biggest talk about who could potentially be traded. We can officially close the door on it being a quarterback issue with Hunter Renfrow not getting targets, and it's clearly a scheme Josh McDaniels issue. Like Brian Hoyer, Jimmy G, or Farva, he's not getting targets. Hunter had no targets and no catches until garbage time. Then he had 3 targets in garbage time with his 3rd different quarterback. It's clearly a Josh McDaniels scheme issue and not a quarterback issue.
Yeah. I mean, he's just not in the progressions. He's just not in the progressions whatsoever. And there are receivers that are running routes that aren't in progressions.
And he was open. There's a couple times he was wide open too.
Dude, did you see that one that Mayer in the seam?
Yeah.
When Hoyer freaking threw it to Jacoby Myers.
Yeah.
And even Mark Sanchez was like, "Ooh, Mark Sanchez." When Mark Sanchez is calling you out for missing reads.
Another thing we were hoping could finally turn around. We've been asking this for 7 weeks now. When is Josh Jacobs going to finally turn things around? He didn't today. 11 carries, 35 yards, 3.2 yards per carry. His longest was 11 yards. And this time he was even bad in the passing game. 1 reception for 6 yards. Also had that like half drop, half bad pass from Hoyer that turned into an interception. He had a touchdown drop as well, right? Was he in the end zone? Or no, not drop, but he was out of bounds. He stepped out of bounds on touchdown. So Josh Jacobs' worst game of the season?
Probably, yeah.
Probably, at least production-wise. He had some. He missed a block that caused a sack. And not missed a block, but like he hit like a D lineman and just bounced off, and then the tackle just got the sack.
I said, wait a second. That's not good.
Yeah, I was like, that was kind of like, you got to go low there, Josh. Because normally, even with his bad production, he's been good everywhere else. Like he's been good blocking the backfield, good catching passes out of the backfield. He just hasn't been getting any, his carries just go nowhere. This was the first time where he was not good anywhere all season, I would say.
Yeah, it was a pretty rough game for him today. I'm not sure what's going on with him, but today was pretty rough. But let's take a step back and look at you have Davante Adams on your team. Mm-hmm. And the go-to play is a wheel route from like the 4-yard line to your running back. That's the play you want to run. It doesn't make sense to me. You're trying to be too cute, Davante Adams ran the route you should have ran on 2nd down, on 3rd down, and dropped it. Mm-hmm. I didn't like that play call whatsoever. I think that was a terrible play call.
A couple injuries to look at. Josh Jacobs left with a hip injury, came back. He didn't seem to be visibly limping, but he was kind of holding it, so that's something to follow and keep an eye on. Daniel Carlson with that groin, when he missed that opening 41-yarder. I forgot, they said the stat during the broadcast, but it was like, 30-something straight kicks not missing, like a 40-year or, a 40 or less or something, 41 or less, whatever the number was. Uh-huh. That makes me think groin injury and scares me, something to keep an eye on. He didn't hit a 40-yarder later, and he hit 2, one from 30-something and one from 40. That's something to keep an eye on. And Divine Diablo had an ankle injury in the first half and never came back. So those are three starters, 2 Pro Bowlers that we're going to have to keep an eye on. We've been pretty okay with injuries this season in the grand scheme of things. I mean, normally losing your starting quarterback is just distraught, but half of Raider Nation's happy that Jimmy G was out because they thought we'd get Aiden O'Connell. Instead, we got Brian freaking Hoyer getting his baker's dozen losses in a row.
Yeah, it just the decision making and the lack of awareness is making a bad decision. Doesn't necessarily make you somebody who's a bad decision maker, because nobody's perfect. Yep. But it's how you react to the bad decision and the reasons why you react the way you do. You react poorly by not putting Favre in the game at halftime. Now, why did he not put him in? I don't know. I didn't see anything from Brian Hoyer that gave me any type of confidence that he was going to be able to lead a comeback.
I haven't seen anything since 2016 that makes me think Brian Hoyer was going to win. That's the thing. It's let's see how he does. This isn't a rookie. This isn't a guy where do you think he got better with age? Do you think now that he's old and immobile, he's going to be a better quarterback? Atrocious. Ty Davis, thank you for the super chat. O'Connell scored more in 5 minutes than Hoyer in 55. Well, technically,
the same.
Hoyer scored 2 field goals and a touchdown, but it was a touchdown to the Bears is the problem. So he did throw a touchdown pass today. It was just, who is the was it Joshua or John, the DB for the Bears that had the two picks? Johnson. He didn't have a single pick last season. Got 2 against us, including a pick 6. What is how dumb do you have to be to have bright orange undershirt? if you're a defensive player. Don't you want to hide? Don't you want I remember there was a DBs talk about how they'll change their glove color to match the jersey of the opponent, right? So you can kind of pull and it's harder for the refs to see. Why would you wear literally the same colors that hunters wear in the forest so they don't get shot as a DB? You just that more obvious to be seen. He's wearing this hey, look at me neon sign, and still Hoyer threw him the ball twice.
I think he's like, look, he's not going to think I'm dumb enough to wear this. It's like, they're trying to trick me.
It's a diversion. It's got to be somebody else.
Yeah, I think he's wearing it so people can see him on TV.
Right?
You can point him out. There he is.
He's trying to get laid.
Like the whole.
That's how bad he is. He cares more about getting laid after the game than maybe getting a slight edge in your color of shirt.
Like the Leo DiCaprio. Point it out.
The tweet of the day comes from Greg Rosenthal.
Oh, yeah.
Even if the Raiders lose, these are valuable reps in Hoyer's development.
So good. Such a good tweet.
It was just I just could not understand the Hoyer. What is the upside? What is the benefit? And you were trying to explain what you thought McDaniels' thought process was. And,
again, not that I agreed with it.
I know. Again.
Yeah.
Not that you agreed with it, but you're trying to explain well, he's probably thinking this. That's still stupid. That's still stupid. You still throw more interceptions than touchdowns, and we know you suck. We have no reason to develop you. But let's give you the start. Because maybe, after losing 12 games in a row, lucky 13 is how it works. The game should have been played on a Friday. Yeah, Friday, 13th. Perfect. That's what's going to happen.
I mean, Tanner Jack, our rookie, did get his first sack today.
Yeah.
It was a sack.
I predicted 3 different Raiders would have sacks today. I was wrong. It was only 2. But at least it was our rookie. It was Tyree.
It's our 2 defensive ends.
Josh Dubois, everyone's favorite. He posted a stat. Tyree Wilson is the only defensive end or edge rusher in the last 15 drafts to go the first 6 games without a sack, a pressure, or a tackle for loss. Streak ended today. Brian Hoyer's losing streak continues. Tyree Wilson's sackless streak comes to an end.
All right, hold on a second. Pissed off vet. He's been pretty chill with me over the last couple of weeks. I want to help him out, okay? I'm not talking shit on you, okay? Go ahead, swear jar me.
Swear jar.
I'm not talking mess on you, okay? He was being facetious. He was being sarcastic.
Yeah.
He wasn't being serious.
Twitter needs
he's a very good follow. He's a really good follow.
Yeah. Twitter needs a sarcasm font, especially during Raider games, because I would say that was probably 72% of my tweets today.
They do have a kind of a sarcastic like GIF you can put or GIF. It's the SpongeBob SpongeBob dude doing that.
I don't like that one though.
It's hilarious. Dude. I love that. I love that picture. Because every time I freaking say something sarcastic, I put the picture underneath it. It's like, oh, okay, I get it.
How cool was that onside kick attempt at the end of the game with Daniel Carlson? Just line drive it at the dude's helmet.
Wait for it to bounce back
and see if it bounced. That was great. I mean, that's a great technique.
I mean, it's just as probably
the ball was straight in the air when it was in play. I mean, that was we obviously didn't recover, but Daniel Carlson did his job. Just give your kick coverage a chance to get it. I wonder if that's going to be a move that's going to start sweeping the nation.
Gabriel, I'd trade McDaniels to Kraft for a paperclip. I read a story that a guy started with a red paperclip on Craigslist and traded until he got a house with a paperclip.
Yeah.
So don't discount the value of a paperclip.
That was an episode of The Office where Dwight started with a pen or something and eventually traded up to a telescope, a multi-$1,000 telescope, but then traded it to Jim for a bag of magic beans. It went full circle. Sam A, we are building a shrine in your honor. I tell you, what does it mean when you get blown out by the worst team in the league? Well, if we get blown out by the Broncos, I'll tell you. I mean, we got blown out by a bottom 3 team with their backup quarterback and third string running back.
Here's the deal, brother. We got beat by a bad team with their worst personnel that they've had this season. The worst. We got beat by a bad team, even when they were full strength, with their worst team.
Yeah,
that they put out.
Mana Koahi, listening to you argue.
Koahi. Mana Koahi.
Mana Koahi. Come on, I want to lay ya. Listening you two argue is probably what McDaniels and Ziegler sounds like. Excuse me, who are your candidates for head coach and GM next year? I mean, it all depends who's available, right?
Yeah. I honestly, if I had my choice, I would like a head coach that's a head coach. I don't want a head coach / play caller.
Mm-hmm.
I want a guy that's that can go out there and develop, and not someone who's self-aware, not worried about maybe a younger offensive coordinator coming in and shining. Mm-hmm. That's what you want. As a good leader, you want to develop the people under you, not necessarily to take your job, but to also take a next step and move forward, because because you're a good leader, you can develop more people. So I'm really looking for that type of guy. Does it have to be an older coach? No, but definitely somebody who's not like, oh, I'm the offensive guru who's going to call the plays too. Like, no. I want a head coach that's a head coach that can run a game.
I would take John Gruden back as a coach and a GM, but I would definitely take Gruden back. And then maybe Mark Davis can save some of that money that he was like paying off of him. He's like, all right, we'll just put it back into coaching again. I got into this like back and forth. Like Ziegler has to go too. And it's what I've been saying forever. The more people argue with me trying to defend Dave Ziegler, the more I feel like I'm right. Dave Ziegler, I can go over the list of all the terrible things he did. Paying Waller too early, giving Carr the no trade clause, signing Chandler Jones,
giving Hunter Renfrow that contract.
See, I thought that was not as fun, but I know you hate that contract.
Nobody else in the league likes it because they don't want to trade for him.
Oh, we can have that debate if Josh McDaniels like destroyed his trade value with terrible play, or if it's just him. I mean, that's another debate, but all these things he's done bad, right? But because he's such a nice guy, he's got like a good face and a warm smile, and he makes people feel good. That's so much of Raider Nation defend Dave Ziegler. And I ask you, what has he done good? Like give me 3 examples where you're like, wow, that GM, that was brilliant. That was like a way above average move. It's just not out there. And every time I bring up things that he's done wrong, people keep hitting me with excuses for him, but they yet to give me a good, like, remember when Dave Ziegler did X, Y, and Z and the team was so much better and that was such a brilliant move, or he swindled that team on a trade, or he like undercut that player on the contract, but they're still happy. Like, he doesn't have any of those. He has none of those things.
Probably the best few things he's done is the Davante Adams trade, signing Maxx Crosby, getting rid of getting rid of the sack of nuts and bolts that is Waller for a 3rd-round pick. Those were pretty good. He helped build a defense that was up until today getting a lot better. It was improving. Were they earth-shattering moves? No. But the thing is, I think his mistakes were a lot bigger than what his victories were. His victories were more steady type of things.
You and me could have done the Davante trade. Like, here's a ton.
If you don't want to go one way as far as like making excuses, you don't want to take away from him either.
I'll do both. I'll do both. I'll say all the things he's done wrong and the things that people give him credit for. Like, and that, is the Davante or Maxx Crosby trade and signing an above average move?
Again, I said his mistakes were bigger than what his good moves were.
Okay. I mean, I would argue that there's been some pushes, right? Like Max was gonna get paid a huge contract, and he did. Market value for what he's doing. So that was, you got to pay the guy, and he did. That's a push. The Davante Adams, it was like he wanted to come here. I would say and he got paid at the time. He was the top 5 highest paid player in the NFL that wasn't a quarterback. So it wasn't like you or I could have been like, here, Green Bay, here's a bunch of picks, and here, Davante, here's all the money in the world.
Up for review. The best thing he was pronouns, pal. Dave Ziegler did was use Carr to bring Davante Adams in.
Now, if Ziegler pulled the puppeteer strings and manipulated Carr to get Davante Adams, then we can have that. Then let's talk. I would like to see some evidence that that's what happened.
If that is the case, pretty sweet.
And that's pretty sweet. That didn't happen. But if it was,
Yeah,
I'd
no,
give him.
look,
I'd give him a
I
check.
agree with you, man. I agree with you. As far as some of the misses that he's had, I don't know that we're going to say that he's
And I'm
going
not
to
arguing with you. It's I keep
No, I get it.
I keep getting all this every time I say like
I'm not
Ziegler's
arguing with you either. I think you're right. I don't think
Yeah.
that like when I'm saying that his misses were a lot bigger than his wins, whew, that's not a vote of confidence for your general manager.
Yeah, it's been really bad from Ziegler. Like I don't know. Like
What do you
every
think? What do you
time
think about this? We talked about this. Maybe he came in late. What do you think about this? You know who? I don't know. I mean, you might know who, but I don't. Patrick Graham needs to take some responsibility for the Keystone Cop defense. I mean, I'll take a look at the game again in tape, but the guys looked to be in position to make plays. It just was the effort when they got there.
I mean, look, you know, the defense. You're the defensive coordinator, and the defensive performance is on you at the end of the day. That is a true fact. That is a statement. But I think it's more of a Ziegler issue that these guys are just terrible, and Patrick Graham's putting him generally in pretty good position to succeed.
Or a Josh McDaniels issue, right? Because of his decision making and how he's handling a game makes the defense like, dude, why do we got Hoyer? Like, I understand it. If I'm a defender and I see them putting out Hoyer, who's going 3 and out and throwing the ball into the dirt and not able to move the ball, and just to put us back out there all over again, I mean, I would get, pretty discouraged on that too.
What else? Anything else you got?
Shit.
Is there a quarterback controversy in Chicago? Tyson Bagent, Justin Fields?
No, I think it's very similar to
because you had Ryan McKinnell say Justin Fields' days in Chicago are over. Not that he's a bad quarterback; it's just a relationship that's not going to work.
It's not going to work anymore. Yeah, and I agree with that. The issue that Chicago is having is the same issue that we're having. Is they have so much equity into the quarterback position. Once somebody shows that they can play well, and then they come back, they have to kind of show it again. All right, show that you're not the guy. Like struggle again, so then we can move on and have two comparisons here. So even though they lost, they did score. They were scoring better the last few games before Fields got hurt. Fields got hurt in the Minnesota game. Mm-hmm. So if Fields comes back and continues to struggle, then yeah, you can go to Bagent. Just like Jimmy G, if they would have let Favre go out there and do something and show a little life, if Jimmy G would have come in and struggle again, okay, then you can say, okay, we have this guy played, this guy looked good, this guy doesn't look good. Okay, we can move on to the younger guy. But until that happens, I don't know if they move on.
I guess in like the closest thing to positive news, we'll get the Lions on Monday Night Football next week. The Lions got their dicks kicked in today.
Whoa.
38-6. They scored less points than we did.
Swear jar.
Keep forgetting that one's a swear. Still don't think it should be, but I did agree, so I'll stand by it.
So
38-6.
I think it's no good. It's no good for us. We're gonna get a pissed off Lions team, and they're gonna just give it to us with no spit, no lube, no nothing.
I was playing against Lamar Jackson in fantasy, so I was like,
good luck.
God. Oh. 38-6. And that was 6 points in garbage time. That was in the fourth quarter. They held them scoreless for 3 quarters.
Not good.
It was 35-0 going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, they're going to be a pissed off team coming in, and it's not going to be pretty for us. Well, it's a Thursday night game, right?
Monday night.
Next Monday night? Oof,
Monday night
even worse.
Yeah, I was going to say, at least it'll be in a quiet game, in the early window that no one's watching.
Nope.
Oh, wait. Is Sunday night or Monday night the most watched NFL game every week?
I think it's Sunday night.
It is Sunday, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was one of those two. All right. Well, we'll have plenty of time to discuss that. The fire Josh McDaniels conversation will be big. Very curious what Davante Adams said in the post-game presser. Very curious how Josh McDaniels tries to defend some of his decision-making today. Starting Hoyer, kicking that field goal, having Favre come in the fourth quarter. Can't wait to hear his excuses for that. That's going to be a load of laughs. And we'll keep you abreast of all those things as we go along. But until then, knock on wood if you're with me.